The Legend of Hollow Creek. In the heart of Appalachia, where mist rolls over jagged cliffs and dense forests cradle ancient secrets, there lies a place called Hollow Creek. It's a town forgotten by time, steeped in mystery and shadowed by a chilling legend, a legend that begins 200 years ago. It was the year 1825 when settlers first stumbled upon the creek. They were led by a man named Elijah Hartwell, a pioneer driven by a vision of prosperity. Hollow Creek was rich with game, fertile lands, and the shimmering promise of gold in its streams. Elijah proclaimed it a sanctuary, but the land had other plans. The first warning came when a trapper named Jedediah went missing. He'd been tracking deer deep in the woods. All they found was his rifle, snapped clean in two, and his hunting dog, trembling with a gaze fixed on the darkness. The elders spoke of an ancient curse, a deal struck with something not of this world. They called it the Warden of the Woods, a spirit that protected the land from outsiders. Those who trespassed paid the price. Elijah dismissed their warnings. He was a man of reason, of progress. Months passed, and the settlement flourished. Fields were tilled, homes erected, and families grew. But the warden was not silent. Cattle would vanish without a trace. Crops withered overnight, their roots blackened as though burned. And then came the voices. At first, whispers in the wind, then cries in the dead of night. The settlers began to turn on one another, paranoia taking root. Elijah tried to maintain order, but even he could not ignore the signs. He gathered the bravest men and led an expedition to the heart of the forest, where the creek's source whispered of forbidden truths. They carried lanterns and rifles, their breaths visible in the icy air. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, until silence turned to an unnatural stillness. And then they saw it, standing over 9 feet tall, its body cloaked in shadow, but its eyes burning with an unnatural green light. The Warden of the Woods. The creature moved like smoke, evading every bullet. It struck without mercy, its claws slashing through the air like scythes. Elijah faced it, rifle in hand, heart pounding. But as he pulled the trigger, the warden whispered a single word, a word no human should ever understand. The next morning, only one man returned, Elijah. But he was not the same. His hair had turned stark white, his eyes hollow, as if they'd seen the end of the world. Elijah refused to speak of what he saw. The settlement fell apart. Families fled, the once thriving community reduced to ruins. Hollow Creek became a ghost town. But the story doesn't end there. In the decades that followed, explorers, treasure hunters, and thrill-seekers would venture into the woods, drawn by tales of the cursed land. Few returned, and those who did spoke of the warden watching, waiting. Today, Hollow Creek is a popular spot for urban legends. Teens dare each other to spend the night. Paranormal investigators set up cameras, hoping to catch a glimpse of the warden. But none truly understand the danger that lurks beneath the canopy of those ancient trees. So, if you ever find yourself in Appalachia, and you come across a creek where the water runs colder than it should, where the air carries an unnatural stillness, turn back. For the Warden of the Woods still watches, and it does not forgive. As Elijah lay on his deathbed many years later, he finally broke his silence. The townsfolk gathered around him, desperate for answers. His voice, barely a whisper, carried a weight that silenced the room. Elijah, the warden, it's not just a guardian. It's a memory of what was here before us. It's angry because we forgot. We didn't listen. His final words sent chills down their spines. It's always watching. And with that, he was gone. The mystery of the warden remains unsolved. Some say it's a spirit. Others claim it's a creature beyond understanding. But those who've been to Hollow Creek know one thing for certain. You don't trespass lightly. There are whispers that the warden can only be appeased through an offering, but what kind of offering, no one knows. Some leave trinkets, food, or handmade gifts by the creek, hoping to appease the unseen force. Others light candles and recite prayers, though no one knows if these rituals hold any true power. There was one daring soul, a professor of folklore, named Margaret Odell, who ventured into the forest with her students. She claimed the warden was a myth, created to ward off settlers, a story spun from fear. But when her team disappeared without a trace, the myth became terrifyingly real. Local authorities combed the area, finding only remnants of their camp. Torn tents, scattered equipment, and a camera with a single photo. A shadowy figure in the trees, its glowing green eyes piercing through the dark. Legends of the warden have grown with time. Some say it can mimic human voices, luring victims deeper into the woods. Others speak of ghostly figures, the spirits of those it's taken, wandering aimlessly, warning others to leave. One thing is certain. Hollow Creek is not a place for the faint of heart. Its beauty is a trap, its serenity a deception. For beneath its tranquil surface lies a force as old as the mountains themselves, unyielding and unforgiving. So, remember this tale the next time you hear a whisper in the wind or see a shadow where there should be none. The warden of the woods is watching, and it's waiting for you. Subscribe now to Prime AI, your ultimate storytelling companion. Dive into captivating tales like The Legend of Hollow Creek and discover worlds beyond imagination. Don't miss out. Unlock the magic of narrative today.